Moving on now, it is immigration news. Now, while I was away, there was a series of anti-immigration rallies which were held across the nation's capitals. You might have heard about them. Maybe you showed up to counter-protest them. If you listen to this podcast, and I hope you do, there is a good chance that you did. If you don't listen to this podcast, well, maybe there's a good chance that you were at the rally that my people were counter-rallying. Or maybe you're the majority of people who don't listen to this podcast. I don't know. The rallies were called the March for Australia, which is actually very confusing branding because normally when you march for something, you're supposed to actually like the thing. This is like staging a march for broccoli because you think broccoli is disgusting and shouldn't exist. And these marches have garnered a little bit of criticism, we'll say, with some attendees saying the events had nothing at all to do with race and were in fact aimed at slowing down migration, regardless of where it was coming from. Ah, I see, the old "I'm not racist, I hate everyone" approach to public discourse. It's the same philosophy that your uncle displays at family gatherings. And that's just when he's talking about the family that's already there. But any ambiguity was cleared up at the Sydney rally where someone brought a sign which read "White unity at every opportunity," which is about as subtle and nuanced as a Ricky Gervais stand-up routine about trans people. Now, in a rare moment of decisiveness, the federal government immediately came out against the rallies, saying it stands with modern Australia. And that is a nice change of pace, as we have struggled recently with being in alignment with modern Australia for a hot minute. Not on Palestine, not on fossil fuels, not on transparency, and certainly not on koala habitats. Let's be honest, we're less girt by sea as we are girt by contradiction. The government said that Australia has no place for people who seek division. And you know how serious they were, because they busted out the big guns. Yeah, that's right. They called the marches un-Australian. Ooh! That's a sacred term usually reserved for things like beach hogging, queue jumping, or not owning a Bunnings sausage-stained shirt. Albo might even go so far as to say that he isn't angry, he's disappointed. Which, as every child of a migrant parent knows, ooh, that is far worse. They do love to trot out the accusation of un-Australian, like it means anything to us. Although, I guess, like, to these people, the March for Australia people, I suppose it means everything, doesn't it? Because that's what the whole march was about, right? What's Australian and what's un-Australian. People were upset that some people deemed to be un-Australian were in the country. While maybe, just maybe, the reductive nature of politicians claiming from on high that members of a general populace or certain ideals don't fall within the restrictive umbrella of Australianness, while others, like destroying the natural environment and indigenous cultural sites to maximise profits for major corporations, if anything, I mean that should be considered un-Australian, right? Surely that's un-Australian. But given we don't consider the destruction of indigenous sites un-Australian, then I'm surprised we do consider a group of white people storming and violently assaulting a place called Camp Sovereignty, which is a frontline camp on top of an indigenous burial ground, to be un-Australian. It just seems philosophically inconsistent with everything that we've lined up so far. So here, let me see if I can wrap my head around this. Let me get this straight. A bunch of white settlers at an anti-immigration rally, which was organised by a group of neo-Nazis, the leader of which is himself technically an immigrant, because he is from New Zealand. Yeah, sure, he's been living here since he was about 5, but he is technically an immigrant, who then attacked Aboriginal people and destroyed a sacred site. Yeah, that actually sounds quintessentially Australian to me. That sounds like large portions of Australians' history, and I can see why these people would want to enact these behaviours, because that's the part of Australia that they really like. It's honouring the ancestors, right? And the ancient ways. I mean, if that isn't the purest distillation of Australian history, then I don't know what is. That's not un-Australian. That's heritage listed, motherfucker. They say that they want things to be how they used to be. But they're not really talking about 40,000 years ago. They're talking less than 200 years ago. And guess what, guys? Mission accomplished. White people turning up, stealing land, and attacking the locals. That is how things used to be. It's basically a colonization reenactment day. They believe one very strict idea. People shouldn't be able to just immigrate to Australia willy-nilly. No, of course not. If you want to come to Australia, you need to be sentenced here. Like, obviously, that's the only way that you're allowed to come here. And we should spend time debunking the claims that these neo-Nazis made, right? Something like more than 1,500 migrants arrive in Australia every day. Yeah, we could do that. Look, the ABS says that these figures are not accurate. They're not an accurate reflection of actual immigration figures. So this is basically based on overseas arrivals and departures data, which counts long-term and permanent migrants as they arrive and depart through Australian borders. So some of those people are leaving. This isn't a one-way street. Or that there's been more Indian immigrants in 5 years than Greeks and Italians in 100 years. Which, when Peter MacDonald, the Emeritus Professor of Demography at the Australian National University, said the claim is an odd statement to make, and that while Indian arrivals over the past few years have been numerically bigger, the statistic is comparable to Greek and Italian post-war arrivals when you consider migration as a percentage of overall population. But it's all pretty wild talk, and it is a concern coming from them, but much worse when these kinds of talking points come from elected officials. People like Senator Jacinta Napajanama-Price, who claimed Labor was prioritising Indian immigrants to bolster its vote, which is a pretty wild statement to make. And I just have to ask, do you know how far-fetched a plan like this would have to be? How many years it would take to come to fruition? They'd have to have come here, obtained PR, wait 4 years until applying for citizenship, apply to be a citizen, then hopefully they vote for the party that they see as supporting them, even though they weren't the ones who have brought them in. Like, not only is that a paperwork marathon, if that's their master plan, it wouldn't pay off until sometime in 2047, right around the time that climate change turns Darwin into Atlantis. The numbers would be way too small to make any difference. And all the immigrants that voted in the 2022 election and any elections that came after that, which brought Albo into power, would have been brought in when the coalition was in power. So somehow this would have to have been a plan set in motion by the opposition to make Albo get into power so that they could speak out against him, so that they could claim that he had brought these immigrants into power, so that they could dethrone him. Do you understand the problem here? Do you see how it all starts to fall apart? AEC data shows that the vast majority of new voters this year were from people coming of age, not from gaining citizenship from immigration. There was 1,831,800 new voters aged 18 to 24, roughly 92% of the eligible population, leaving around 159,937 unregistered voters. Whereas, as of the 31st of March, 47,826 new citizens were enrolled to vote, which is less than unregistered voters aged 18 to 24. Do you see those numbers? One of them is much larger than the other. So if you really wanted to panic about demographics, it's not immigration, it's teenagers. It's horny millennials making babies. If they want to march in the streets, they should stage a rally to stop millennials from fucking. But of course, the easiest way to do that, well, give them jobs and affordable houses, because nothing kills sex faster than financial stability and open plan living. The most upsetting part of it all all of these anti-immigration hypocrites are here importing their weird foreign ideologies, attempting to challenge the political landscape of Australia with their weird foreign ideologies. They have no respect for how the locals think or how they want to run the country. These guys are just going to be really embarrassed when they realise the mistake that they have made. At this point, not only have we offshored some of the most well-known Australian brands like Lean Cuisine, Speedo, CUB, Schweppes, Arnott's, Billabong, and even the iconic 4 and 20 pie, but now we can't even make our own race-baiting conspiracies domestically? That's embarrassing. That's what that is. We've outsourced xenophobia. If we're going to be racist, we should at least be trying to make something local, something that we can proudly call our own until we sell it to a foreign market in a desperate attempt to keep our culture afloat. It's like artisan, locally made racism. You know, like Vegemite or Pauline Hanson.